So I received an email a few days ago, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, from the Alliance for Non-Himalayan Nuns. Okay, so it's a group that was formed in India, with the Jitsunma and various other people, to gather together the nuns who are not Tibetan, not Himalayan, because that group, of which I am a member, has particular needs and a particular way of approaching things that is quite different than the Himalayan and Tibetan nuns. Yeah. So, for example, we come to Dharamsala as tourists. The Tibetans anyway came as refugees. The Himalayan nuns are Indian citizens. So there's a difference there. How we grew up, what we were taught as women, what religion we grew up in, all these kinds of things influenced, as well as the fact that as Westerners, we were not just going to another religion, but that religion was embodied by cultures that were not our own. And so we were having to learn how behavior in those cultures so that we acted properly. And we also had to learn how people in those cultures thought, because there were different ways of thinking, about how you make friends, about what constitutes, what things you're obliged to in a relationship, all sorts of things, just different cultural differences. So we were kind of figuring that out, plus visa restrictions, plus getting sick, figuring all of that out. And, teachings weren't in our own language. So, and we didn't know which teachers to go to. We didn't have monasteries to live in. So it's a very different living situation, yeah. So they started this group, I think, to get people together. I haven't been to any of the meetings or things like that because I haven't been in Dharamsala for a while. But I kind of know the situation because I lived it. So they're having, what is really nice is it's not a conference, it's a gathering of some sort. I think it's at Tosamling, which is a nunnery down in the valley below Dharamsala. It was started by one Dutch nun who just kind of said, we need a nunnery. I don't like the word nunnery, monastery for women. We need that for non-Himalayan nuns, and somebody's got to do it. And she just took it upon herself. His Holiness told her, go ahead. It's a great idea. It's really important. So she did, and she's started to something many years ago. Anybody know how many years ago it was? It's a long time. Not a long time, but, huh?
It was starting up when I was there.
When you were there, so that was a while ago. Yeah. And so there's nuns from all sorts of different cultures who go and live there. And it's kind of known that everybody has visa problems. So the community, there's people who come and go. Yeah, because that's the situation there. Anyway, they're having a gathering in March, I think, and they wrote me a note and asked if I would give a talk on living harmoniously in community. So I said, yes, anything I can do to help the Sangha, I want to do that. But in March, I'm going to be in Taiwan. And I don't think I'm going to be in a situation where I can, have unlimited internet use, especially internet use that works. So I said, how about if I gave the talk beforehand and sent you the video? And they said, great. Okay. So as it happens, we're living, at Sravasti Abbey at this time of year in the land of snows, and it's cold. So I have my sleeves on. So I know this is like big no-no. But anyway, what to do? I'm warmer. Okay. So having apologized for all of that, yeah, I want to get into what we're going to talk about today. But first, let's have just a couple of minutes of silence. Let the mind settle down, and we'll cultivate our motivation. So we have the great fortune, due to merit we accumulated in previous lives and also due to our way of thinking in this life. We have the fortune to be ordained beings, to live together, to share the Dharma together, to have teachers who guide us. So let's remember that we're not doing this just for ourselves. That's really the key. This isn't just about me. What I do matters. It influences other people. It can harm them. It can benefit them. And for me, what I want to do is to be of benefit to others. Basically because they're just like me. They want to be happy and they don't want to suffer. So if I can look into everybody's heart and see just that, then there's no friends to be attached to, there's no enemies to hate, there's no strangers to ignore. And so wanting full awakening for myself, then of course it makes sense to want that for everybody else. We're all the same in that way. So with that motivation, let's share the Dharma today. Okay, so living harmoniously in community. So I've been ordained now almost 47 years. I've spent a good deal of that time in communities and some of the time living alone. I've lived in monasteries, I've lived in Dharma centers, and also by myself. And I've had roommates, and I've had not had roommates, and, kind of a little bit of everything. But I've always had in this just, I don't know where it came from, but an incredible respect for the Sangha and the Sangha's role. Not just the role of the Sangha, but what what the Buddha hopes for and wants from the Sangha. And I feel very fortunate to have met the Buddha's teachings, considering that I grew up as a very foolish young person and quite accidentally encountered the teachings and fantastic teachers. How that happened, I have no idea. But, if there's a way to share the teachings that have been so meaningful in my life with others, then that's what I want to do. And I think the Sangha is really important to do that. Yeah. If you look historically, it's been the role of the monastic communities to hold the Dharma, learn it, think about it, meditate on it, integrate it in one's own mind, teach others, realize it. This is kind of part of the Sangha's special role. And of course, lay teachers and lay practitioners are also important. The Buddha wanted a fourfold assembly. So lay men and lay women and ordained women and ordained men. Okay. So, so the Sangha is important. Now, how to live together harmoniously? I must say that the Sangha communities I've lived in before, even within Dharma centers, even without Dharma centers, have not been my idea of harmonious. Okay? They've been my idea of I want to have friends in this community, but some of these people are just, they don't do what they're supposed to do. Anybody else felt like that? Yeah. The book says you're supposed to act like that, and these people are not acting like that. But those people who do are too extreme and they're too strict. I don't like them either. Yeah. And anyway, I want what I want when I want it, and this place does not give me that, and these people don't give me that either. Sound familiar? Okay. So the community I'm living in now, all of you people, is very different from that. Yeah. I think we've created something quite special here. Things happen, but they do get worked out. So from my experiences of living in different situations, I've learned a lot, not only from reading in the Vinaya, about how the Sangha lived at the time of the Buddha, but just through personal experience. What works and what doesn't work, especially with Westerners, or I should say non-Himalayans, because that includes Koreans, Chinese, Vietnamese, and so on. So I've learned a lot from my experiences, and I'll share some of that with you, okay? I'm sure some people will like what I say, and some people won't like what I say. And some people will like it when it applies to other people, but not when it applies to themselves. Okay, so how to live harmoniously. And I'm not sure if this talk was intended as an early talk in this gathering of non-Himalayan nuns, or if it's just intended as a general thing, okay? Because there's a difference that from an orientation for a course that's going to last a couple of weeks and how to create a long-term community. If it's an orientation for a course, what do you tell people? here's where the extra toilet paper is. Here's where, the towels are. Please don't, drip your shower water on the carpeting. Come to meals on time. All this kind of stuff. That's orientation. Yeah. And if you live in a Sangha community, you need to know that because you're doing things together on a schedule and people have to cooperate. But those things are not, they create harmony in the sense that they stop some of the shallow misunderstandings that people get really irritated about. But living harmoniously is more than that. Yeah, it's it involves, first of all, wanting to be part of a community, wanting to live in a community. Yeah, if you don't want to live in a community, there's so many other places to go. Yeah. If you're a bhikshu or a bhikshuni and you don't want to live in community, I'm questioning. I'm not sure about that. Yeah. Some people don't have the circumstances to live in a community. That's quite different than not wanting to. Okay? Can you see? Because you don't have the circumstances. They aren't there. You have to go with your life circumstances. But not wanting to, why don't we want to live in a community? Why? When you talk together with other non-Himalayan nuns, why don't people want to live together in a community? It's basically what I've observed, because if I live in a community, I have to follow the rules. I have to follow a schedule. I can't do what I want. And in life, I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I want what I want when I want it, right? Yeah. So the idea of living in a community when that's the foremost thing in your mind, it's like, But then what is our biggest complaint when we don't live in a community? The lay people don't support me. I don't have any money. I don't have any security where I live. That's a problem if you don't live in a community. Okay, but then are you going to live in a community just so the lay people will support you? Who wants to get? I want to do what I want to do. I've lived in a flat for a long time. I have my car. I have my kitchen. I have my computer. I have my daily routine. I know what I want to do, and I have my bank account and my savings. And, why should I move into a community? Well, why did the Buddha set up communities? Yeah. Why did the Buddha set up communities? Yeah. What would have happened if he said, okay, I ordain you. Go out. Yeah, like the first 12 years before there were any precepts. Yeah. Oh, no communities. I will go wander. I will do what I want. I'll go here. I'll go there. I won't go to the places that are challenging to me. Yeah. And so it's always that thing of my comfort. Yeah, living in a community challenges our comfort. Okay? It challenges our physical comfort because we don't get to choose where the monastery is located. Yeah, it's cold here now. Yeah, I'm sure everybody would have preferred that the monastery was in Hawaii. But if it was in Hawaii, then everybody would say, oh, it costs so much money to fly out here. Why can't you have it on the coast? Okay. Um, yeah. So, we don't get to choose where the monastery is. We have to follow a schedule somebody else made. Yeah. And I remember when I first lived at a monastery in France, every time a new person came, she had so many good ideas about how the monastery should run. And she took over all the community meetings and told us all of her good ideas. And we had to go through all of our rules and schedule again so that they were acceptable to this new person who was joining. Yes? Yeah. What happened then? Yeah, the community had to review everything, make everything all over again. And as soon as we did, that person left. They wanted to go somewhere else, because as they say, the chanting is better on the other side of the meditation hall. So you go. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just talking that kind of stuff, a little bit sharing, I guess, my frustration with my living situation in the early years. But how to live together harmoniously, like I said, first you have to want to live in a community, which means that you have to see the benefits of doing so. You have to see that the Buddha set up monastic communities. Yeah. And most of all, you have to see that the Sangha is really the one to uphold the teachings in one way or another. Uphold them through our practice, even though we're not perfect. Yeah, but to have a place where people can come when they are desperate, when they are sad, when they need to talk to somebody, when they think that the whole world is falling apart and they want to meet some people who have a good heart. Yeah, we set up a place like that people in society know they can come to. And people come. Yeah, not all of them are Buddhists. We live in an area, quite what we call in America, a redneck area, very conservative area. Yeah, but people come. Something happens in the family. Remember that one woman who came one morning? Yeah, her grandchild had just been killed in a car accident. She wasn't Buddhist, but she came because she needed to be consoled. She needed to have people understand her. She needed a framework with which to see this tragedy in her family. And so the two of us sat with her. Yeah. And that's what we do. So people come for all reasons. Yeah. So we're here to serve the public. We're also here to learn the Dharma and to learn it well so that we can explain things to people who want to learn. Yeah, so that we're not just making stuff up so that we sound good. Yeah, but to really share what we've learned with other people. Yeah, and we're here to continue the monastic lineage, which is very, very important. Yeah. When I first ordained, I had this feeling of how important the ordination was for me personally in my practice. Yeah. But I didn't really understand how important keeping ordination is for the people I know, the people I like, the people I don't like, the people I can't stand. It's important for them. The people I don't know, future generations. Yeah, what I do will influence a whole lot of people, especially if I'm a monastic, because, by taking the ordination, I've made a statement to myself in the presence of the Buddhas that other people will want me to live by, which is to live ethically and to do what is beneficial for living beings, to sustain and to spread the Buddha's precious teachings. Yeah. But at the beginning, I didn't. I was mostly thinking about my own practice. Yeah. Not mostly, all the time thinking about my own practice. And, where can I go to get these teachings? Where can I go to do retreat? I lived in Kopan. I lived at the library, but I was there and I was determined as a new nun, I was going to get enlightened in this very lifetime. Yeah. So I wasn't going back to the West. Forget it. The West is corrupt. Yeah. This was before Trump even. And I just want to do where it's comfortable for my practice, where I'm surrounded by people who are good influence for me, people who support me, people who I admire, but not admire so much that I get jealous, because I have a problem getting jealous of other Sangha too. But, yeah, that would be okay. And so I became very critical of the Sangha. I remember once I was talking to one monk. I forget what he was talking about, but I was standing there thinking, why doesn't he be quiet? I want to go meditate on compassion for sentient beings. That showed you the level of my Dharma intelligence in those days, like minus 15. So always just thinking about what's going to help my practice. And then, through some great fortune, Karma-Lekshe Soma was a friend of mine, and she had gone to Taiwan to receive Bhikshuni ordination. And I had always wanted to do that. My teacher said, no, you don't need it. You have the Bodhisattva vows, you have the Tantric vows, you don't need Bhikshuni ordination. And anyway, there's not the lineage. And, so, but there was always in my mind when I went to Sochung, Posada on Sochung days, and all the monks were in the temple, I used to circumambulate and make very strong prayers to be fully ordained, although I had no idea how in the world I was going to do that. Anyway, so Venerable Lekshe Soma was a friend. She had gone to Taiwan before. She set me up to meet one of her friends, Venerable Hang Ching, okay, who very kindly met me at the airport, dressed me up in Chinese robes, and put me on a bus to go to Kaohsiung. And then I received the Bhikshuni ordination. That ordination completely changed my practice, okay? And if I were to give this talk as a Shramaneri and now as a Bhikshuni, you would have two different talks. Because as a Shramaneri, like I said, it was all about me and my practice and my physical comfort, my emotional comfort. Me! Yeah. And when I received Bhikshuni ordination, yeah, there was the very distinct physical as well as mental feeling of riding a big wave. Okay, so I'm from Southern California, but I've never surfed. But I was riding this big wave consisting of all the monastics, from the Buddha to his students, the monks, the nuns, all of them carrying forth the Vinaya, carrying forth the Buddha's teachings. And here's little old me, this foolish girl from Covina, California, that nobody knew about. Yeah. Who was a total brat. How did she have the fortune to be sitting on the top of that wave that was fueled by the practice of millions of people over, millenniums? How did I have that fortune? And it really hit me. Why? I have no idea. I don't deserve it this life. But, yeah, it is due to the kindness of all those who came before me, so I have a responsibility to carry it on. My responsibility isn't just to come here and take what I like and what makes me feel good. My responsibility is to really go deeply in the teachings, understand them, and then sustain the Vinaya lineage. And, if at some time I become capable of sustaining the Sutra lineage, I'll do that too. But right now, I don't know. Okay, so things really changed at that point when I thought, I have a responsibility to future generations. It's not all about me. So one of the elements that I think makes our community here very harmonious is that we have a similar long-term aim. Yeah, I think everybody here has some wish to sustain the teachings, to sustain the Vinaya lineage for the future. Yeah, for future generations. People may have that at different degrees. When you're newly ordained, it's not as strong. When you're ordained for a while, when you are building a Buddha hall, yeah, and you have no privacy, and you're spending 20 hours a month doing all the, it's not even bookkeeping, it's, I don't know, making everything, the money and the work done make sense. When you're going up there every day to deal with workmen, you're doing something physically to sustain the Dharma for the future. Yeah. What happens to your meditation practice? You can't even think about that. You practice during the day, you practice not getting mad, you practice not getting frustrated, not screaming, okay? And then you dream about one day when you can go do retreat and be all alone. But then you know that that's not also the best thing for you. Yeah, sometimes because I lived in Dharamsala, and there were people who would do 3-year retreat. And I remember one of my friends went with somebody who completed a 3-year retreat to see one Lama, and they talked for a while, and then the retreatant left. And the Lama said, 3 years, same mind. I thought, And my teacher didn't want me to do long retreat. I wanted to, every time I asked, and every one of my teachers I asked, the reply was always the same. Oh, that's very nice. Go teach. Yeah. So when when you are really behind the purpose of the community, then you stretch your boundaries. You stretch your capacities. Yeah. Yeah. The person who's doing all that tedious work every month of what they did and what we pay and how it goes with this, with the original thing. She studied to become a physical therapist. She's learning all this stuff now. Our globetrotter who trots from the office up to the building site every day. That's her world. Yeah. Didn't train as an athlete to run up the hill. Yeah, she was a teacher. Yeah, so she dealt with little kids, and now she's still dealing with little kids. They just have bigger bodies. Yeah. So, so what I'm getting at is whether or not you live harmoniously in the community depends on your mind. And why are you going there? And what is your purpose? What is the purpose of the whole group? Does the group have a common purpose? And I think that's one strong thing that really binds this community. Yeah. I mean, we have a common purpose and we're going towards it. And those of you who don't know what the common purpose is, you will learn. Yeah. Because one day you'll be the people running up to the building site and doing all that work. Okay? So a common purpose as a community. So it's not just to build buildings and do activities for lay people. We have, that's the social service engagement part of it. But we also have the study and meditation part of it. Yeah, which are really, really important. We have to study the teachings. We have to meditate on them. Everybody agrees about that. Everybody may not agree at what time in the morning we start to do that. But when you really agree with the overall purpose, you accommodate yourself so that you receive the benefit of living in the community. Okay? Because a community is very different than a lot of people, in this case, a lot of people wearing the same clothes with the same hairdo, living in the same building. Yeah. Same hair, same clothes, living in the same building. That does not make a community. That makes a boarding house. Okay, what makes a community is when we work together, we bond together, we care about each other. We have a common purpose. We look out for each other. Yeah. And when we want to do something, we check with the rest of the community if what we want to do actually fits with what's convenient for everybody else. Yeah, that's a new thought, isn't it? To do what's convenient for everybody else. Because I'm coming into this community and you start meditation at 5:30 in the morning. That is too early. Okay, we should start at 5:45. I know it's only 15 minutes, but it's a big difference. And I cannot function at 5:30, but at 5:45, I can function. So you can all go there at 5:30, and I will come 15 minutes later and walk into the silent meditation hall and plop myself down and make enough noise so that you will all know that I'm there. Because there's no way I'm going to get up 15 minutes earlier and be in the hall at 5:30. Okay. Now, it sounds exaggerated. And check your mind. How many times have we had thoughts like that? Yeah. Oh, lunch. It's at 12:30. It used to be at 12. I liked it better when it was at 12 because I was hungry at 12. Why did we make it 12:30? That's really dumb. Anyway, we're supposed to eat before midday. But midday here is after noontime. So I guess we have the time, but I don't know. I want to eat at 12. Yeah. So please, people in the kitchen, I know that you're cooking for 25 people, but have it ready a half an hour earlier because I want to come in and eat at 12 because I'm hungry then. And then everybody else can come and eat at 12:30, right? Sounds good, yeah? So cooks, please accommodate that, yeah? And, in the evening, yeah, I'm totally worn out. I'm exhausted. So I want to go to bed at 8 o'clock. Yeah. And people around here, yeah, you're talking in the room. You're working on the computer after 10 o'clock. And I can hear the clicking of those computer keys, and it keeps me awake. Plus, the upstairs floor in the nuns' hall, it creaks when you walk on it. Now, I know I was part of the group that decided not to put carpeting on it, that we were going to have, just a regular flat floor. But it really does creak too much, and why can't we put some carpeting there? Yeah. And anyway, why are people getting up so many times in the middle of the night? I mean, it sounds like a highway outside my room. Yeah. Can I make a stoplight where you all go to the bathroom at one time and then you all go back to bed at the same time? Yeah. Because I want to go to bed at 8 o'clock, and you people are too much. So, yeah, I need my beauty sleep, a less than 10 hours. It just won't work for me. Yeah, so I go to bed at 8, then I get up at 6. Yeah, that's good, isn't it? So, yeah, let's do that. And the best way to do that, so that I won't disturb you when I go to bed early, which means you won't disturb me when I go to bed early. How about if I have my own room? Yeah, right now I have a roommate. How did I get this roommate? Oh my goodness. Do you want to know what me and my roommate fight about? Mm-hmm. Yeah, my roommate is so uncooperative. We fight about, get this, where to put our underwear. I lie not. Because one person put their underwear, there's a partition in the room, and one person put their underwear behind the partition, but the partition on the other side was the altar of the other one. And I don't want your underwear close to my Buddha. So, yeah, I had to mediate that one. I don't know if the rest of you knew about it. No, you didn't know. Yes, yeah. So I mediated that one. Um, you know, then there's some other ones too. There's I really want my own room. I mean, my roommate is too much. He doesn't talk. All he does is look at me. I start a conversation, nothing. He just gives me dirty looks. Yeah, I really need my own room. This is bad for my mental health. Yeah, yeah. Then, but then the other roommate I have, he burps all night, you know, and that wakes me up. Um, yeah, sound familiar? Yeah, yeah. And some of these people, they work in the office, so they come back to the room with cat fur on their clothes. And I'm allergic to cats. I know nowhere near the cat, but I'm near the cat fur. Achoo. Okay. So, what is going to get us past all of this? It's not going to be by listening to the self-centered thought. That is not what is going to help us live harmoniously in community. What is going to help us is if we blend in and do what is convenient for others. Yeah? And we'll get used to it. It might not be our way of doing it. I mean, they still cook beans and cabbage and rice in that kitchen, and I accommodate myself. Aren't I wonderful? Yeah, I'm so glad you like beans and cabbage and rice. Yeah. But, to somehow, not out of fear, not out of obligation, not out of pressure, but out of a wish to create harmony around me, to follow the daily schedule, to do what is convenient for others, And that's the point of the story of Anuruddha, when after the rainy season, Anuruddha and his companions who did retreat together came to see the Buddha, and the Buddha said, how did you guys do? Were you harmonious? Did you have a good retreat? And Anuruddha said, yeah. And Buddha said, what'd you do? And then Anuruddha said, listen to this. Well, we all went out on alms round, on Pindapat together. But the first person who came back would set up the table, put out the offerings he received, eat, clean up his own little mess, and then go. And then the next person would do the same. Except the room was already set up. The first person set up the room, put out the water, put out the bowls. Second one came and ate, left the food that wasn't there, that he didn't eat. The third one came, again, there was leftovers from the first two. He ate, and then he cleaned up, and he refilled all the water jugs, huge water jugs, refilled them all, took the extra food out and gave it to animals, and cleaned up the whole thing. And Anuruddha said, we lived very happily together because everybody shared the various chores. And everybody did this happily. And the Buddha, of course, was very pleased. Yeah. So I was thinking about that. If that were, maybe I'm generalizing, if that were a group of Westerners who were all like me, okay, the first person would come back and say, okay, I got this much on my alms round. I'm eating this much. Don't anybody touch that. If there's anything left over, I'll put it over there and you can only eat that. Okay. And I'm washing my bowl, finished. Second person would come up. Okay, yeah, I brought up back what I have. Yeah. And I'm going to eat this. I'm also going to eat some of what the first guy, left. I don't care. I'm going to eat it all. I'm really hungry today. So the whole thing's going to be wiped out. And, afterwards, because I'm so hungry and I ate so much, I'm just leaving my stuff there. Yeah. I washed somebody else's dishes yesterday. Not dishes, dish. I washed somebody else's bowl yesterday. I'm not doing it today. And I'm leaving my bowl here for somebody else to wash because we got to be fair around here. And then the third guy would come in, and say, oh, there's no food left. I'm glad I have a little bit from when I went on Pindapat. I'll eat that. And all these other guys made a stinking mess here. Who do they think they are? Their mother, their maid. I'm supposed to come in here and then clean up the big mess they made and fill that jug while they're off taking a nap after lunch. Ugh, forget it. Yeah? So, the situation's the same between Anuruddha and all these other people who are like me. Yeah, the situation is the same. Anuruddha's people, they were all so happy being together. Me and my people, we are at each other's throats. We are miserable. The situation's the same. What's making the difference? Our mind and our behavior. Yeah. So what makes a community? It's people really coming together with a shared goal and wanting to work together, wanting to do what they do together, whether it's, you're meditating or, another thing we do around here, we have swarms. Okay, so I know somebody spoke about that yesterday, but you were the champion of the anti-swarm movement. Okay, so what's a swarm? A swarm is when something happens unexpectedly and everybody needs to come together and work and clean it up or sort it out or do whatever we need. Okay? So sometimes, what is it? Somebody's donated a whole lot of something and everybody needs to come and put it away. And sometimes it's, I remember the one that really got to you. It got to a few people. One of Venerable Jendi's people at her temple had donated some furniture and some plants to us because they were moving. And so somebody put them in a U-Haul. They came here. They arrived at 9:30 at night? Something like that, So we're all kind of winding down, ready to go to bed. And this U-Haul pulls up full of furniture and plants. And so we go, it's a swarm, everybody, wear your jammies, or rather don't wear your jammies, get dressed and come and help. And it's nighttime and we're tired, and sometimes you just go, I hate swarms. Yeah. Or another one we had here when the fire, they were, what was it? They were putting up the fire regs so you couldn't burn fire after midnight, that night, because the county sends us, updates about when it's permissible to burn. Yeah, whether there's a burn ban or you can burn because we live in an area with a high risk of forest fires. Okay, so there was one evening, this was also probably around 9:30 or so, maybe 10, and and somebody read in their email that, oh, they're starting a burn ban at midnight. And it's like, okay, we have all these piles of wood, old wood that we took out of the forest that needs to be burned. Yeah, so we're having a swarm. Bring your marshmallows and we'll make some s'mores, which we didn't do. But we stayed up very late. You remember that? We stayed up very late, yeah, burning all that wood. Some people were in a good mood doing that. Some people were in a bad mood doing that. You know, what made you have fun doing something that you usually don't do, like making a fire, at midnight? Because they're not going to clamp down at midnight. They're sleeping. Yeah, but what are we going to do? Are we going to make ourselves and others miserable? Are we going to make ourselves, and others happy? It's completely up to us. Yeah, and the thing is, what we do matters. Yeah, because if I'm going to lug that plant out of the back of the U-Haul, yeah, they were the big plants, the big ones. Yeah, remember? Yeah, and yeah, she says, yeah, she's going. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, so you can do it with a mind of, wow, I don't usually do this. This is kind of a neat thing to do with everybody. Or you could do it with a mind of, why didn't they arrive 8 hours earlier when I was busy and other people had to unload the truck? Yeah. So what makes a community, when we care about what happens to everybody, when we care about community property, when we don't just treat community stuff as, well, it doesn't matter how I treat it, it belongs to the community, but where we feel, gee, I'm part of this community, I am respecting the possessions, and I take care of them, even though they're not mine. Okay, so I think this is very important for harmony. Another thing that's important for harmony is what we call transparency. Okay, and especially in a Sangha community where the Sangha is set up where we are supposed to be transparent, especially at Posada, Sojung, we're supposed to say what the precepts are that we broke. Yeah. And so what we do here is we gather together and everybody reveals, their transgressions. And sometimes you don't really want to say some transgressions out loud, But it's really interesting. Usually is if you do, other people go, oh yeah, I've done that too. And then you go, really? I thought I was the only one. Yeah. But then you can talk to other people. If you have a problem with a precept, you can talk with other people about what they do to refrain from that behavior, And so we wind up supporting each other. Yeah. The Sangha isn't set up so that if you break a precept, I can look at you and go, you broke that precept. I'm telling the Buddha on you. You're naughty. Please, that's not what we do here. Yeah. We all came here for the same reason. We want to change. Yeah. And so if we're doing some behavior that we aren't real proud of, we try being transparent. We let other people know. And then those other people probably can support us because they have probably have the same problem. And we talk about it and we think about, ways to deal with whatever this problem is. Yeah. And so in that way, we establish a lot of trust. Yeah. And trust, I think, is a really important part of living in the community. We trust each other. Yeah. I know if I get hurt or I get injured or I fall sick, somebody here will bring me some food or take me to the doctor. If I was living in a boarding house, even with people dressing like me, looking like me, I wouldn't have that kind of trust with them. And they probably may not even come by or even notice that I needed help. So this thing of trust is important, and trust is built by being transparent. Okay? So transparency builds the trust with other people. Transparency also reduces our own feelings of shame. Okay? Because when we do things that we're not terribly proud of, we feel shame. We don't want anybody else to know because they're not going to like me, and for good reason they won't like me because I just did something awful because I'm, an awful person. Yeah. But when you have to say what you've done to others, then you're not locked in that thing of shame, because when we feel shame, we try and hide what we did. We don't want anybody to know. When we're transparent, we regret what we did, which is different than feeling shame about it. We regret it, but we're okay with owning it. We're okay with saying, yes, I did that. I don't know what was going on in my mind at the time that I did that. I really regret it. I want to make amends, but I'm not trying to cover it up and pretend to be goody two-shoes. Okay? So the transparency helps us relax. It takes some courage at the beginning, because many people have had the experience when they were growing up that if you revealed something about yourself, then other people made fun of you, or they criticized you, or they talked about you behind your back, or they told your parents and then you really got in trouble, or they told the principal, or whatever it was. But here, that's not going to happen when we reveal things, because we're all here for the same purpose of changing our minds and improving ourselves. And so we all know that we're all going to make mistakes. And so there's no reason to feel like, I'm a sinner. I'm so full of shame, and I can't let anybody know that I did this. Oh. We're going beyond all of that drama. And just, I did it. I regret it. I'm making amends. And then we're able to clear that. When we can think like that, then we can clear whatever the transgression was. And we make peace with ourselves, by doing purification in that way. Okay, so that transparency, I think, really creates trust, helps to make us a community. Yeah. Anyway, even if you try and hide something, everybody finds out anyway. Yeah. Except me, because nobody tells me anything. But, everybody else knows. But they don't tell me, and I'm the person who should know. Yeah, but they don't tell me. Okay, so those are just some ideas off the top of my head about living together harmoniously in community, how about if you ask questions, make some statements, whatever you would like to enrich this for the benefit of the people who will watch the video.
I think this is largely echoing what you said, but when I think about different communities I've been in, not spiritual communities, but work or whatever communities, one of the big differences that I see is that in some, there were purported shared values that were not actually shared.
Oh, yes.
And then there are the ones where the values, for the most part, really were shared. And so I think that that's what's important, is not just paying lip service to, yes, we say that this is important to us, but actually we're not really doing that. Yeah, some
It's sincerity.
Yeah, exactly. That's, I think, really important. Writing a shared goal down and having everyone nod isn't enough.
Yeah.
I was thinking that one of the things that helps us a lot is we all know that everyone is trying their best.
Yes.
So it's a lot easier to kind of let things go then and just, we're all in the same boat. I mean, I don't think you may start off here with pride, but it will get undermined. It's just too painful. So hold on to it. Pretty soon you're going to be happy when it crashes. And then it's so much easier to really respect and appreciate everyone. So I think that's huge. Plus, I think it's helpful that we've had, I know we're not doing it the same way, but I do think it was helpful that we had the meetings where we laid out our priorities and helped us to kind of get on the same page. So at least, even if they weren't all bought in, at least everybody knew what they were. And we use that sometimes.
Yeah. That reminds me, I think another thing is, and I say this with all due humility, that there's somebody in the community that is willing to step up and say, hey guys, this is not okay. Yeah. And it's like, well, I mean, you know how I am. And if I see something, I will say something. And sometimes it's in the time it's happening. Sometimes it's in a BBC, but things get called out. Yeah. And so what it does, it's not blaming anybody in particular. It's a call for each of us to look at our own minds and how do we often do that behavior that at that moment is getting called out. Yeah, do you get what I mean? Yeah. And so I think, having somebody who is willing to do that, who people in the community respect, helps a lot. If people in the community go, I didn't ask that person to comment on my behavior, they're just criticizing everybody all the time. No, that's not going to work. Okay. But if there's somebody who everybody trusts, who can call stuff out when it needs to be called out, and not just that person, but other people too in the community who care about the community, who see when, maybe we're all shutting down or when we're all talking to each other too much or when, who knows what's going on. Who will bring things up right then and there for people to look at. Yeah, the Tibetan lamas will give us teachings on how to deal with our anger. Yeah, we get those teachings. We've all had them. It's up to us to go back to our room and think of situations when we've been angry and try and figure out how what Shantideva said applies to this situation. Yeah. But when there's somebody who speaks your own language, who knows, how we sometimes try and get around things, ignore things or whatever, who, with a good motivation, points things out, yeah, then it can go in a very different way, because you have a real live example right there in front of you. Yeah. Or it might be that person telling one of their stories about what they did that wound up as a catastrophe. Or it could be something that's happening right then and there, where people really need a reminder about how to see the situation in a Dharma way. Yeah, so I think that's quite important too. But if there isn't a leader that everybody trusts, it's very difficult. Yeah. And if you are waiting for, a Tibetan Lama to fulfill that role, that's not the way they do things in Tibetan communities. They never say things out front like that. Yeah, you never do that. But we, at least as Westerners, I think Koreans and other non-Himalayan nuns are different, but as Westerners, most people will learn by watching. We are very dull. We don't learn by observing how to behave. We need somebody to tell us. Yeah, have you ever noticed that? Yeah, we need somebody to tell us very specifically, do this, do not do that. We don't learn by looking at what other people do in that environment. And I'm just talking about, common things, whether you sit down or stand up or stuff like that. Or, yeah, these kinds of etiquette things. Yeah. So, yeah, we sometimes can be quite dense.
So when there's a conflict in a community, so you say somebody is trustworthy, who maybe can point something out and people listen to that person, that may be helpful. But what we at Sravasti Abbey have done here is also, with the help of NVC, nonviolent communication, and having a mediator in between, like the story you mentioned before. Something like that is very helpful, I think, to adapt in community, especially too if you don't have a strong leader yet, so that there's a common language and at least you can have a form to rely upon, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I forgot that. It is very helpful to have something like nonviolent communication that everybody studies. You watch it together, you practice it together, and then you practice it with each other. Yeah, and you slowly learn how to do it. At the beginning, you are learning about how to express your needs, yeah, and your feelings without putting them on other people to fix. Yeah, because sometimes, well, these are my needs and your job is to fulfill them. Yeah, I feel bad, I'm hurt, it's your fault. Yeah, no, we need people who, to learn those skills, and people who will practice them with us and teach us how to use them properly. Yeah, and I think the empathy circle, you were doing that, that's been very helpful. So yes, these kinds of things are good. I find making I statements, not always. Sometimes making I statements are good, but sometimes I statements is just another way of blaming somebody else.
I think the fact that we don't have a paid staff here is very beneficial for all the monastics. And so it helps build responsibility and care in all the things that we need to take care of here, like the buildings, the environment. And in doing those things, it also helps build connections between the community members.
Yeah, very true, I think. You might think, oh, why do we have to work so much? We have these teams. I'm on so many teams. There's the infrastructure team wants me to do this, but the Dharma dissemination team wants me to do that, but the what other team? The cat team, oh, they want me to take the cat for a 10-minute walk after lunch. I mean, I'm out in so many teams, I'm getting pulled in all these different directions. What were you saying? You see what happens when you just center around me, I, my, and mine? You're out of tune. You can't, you don't know what's going on with the group, what's going on with anybody else. Yeah. The fact that we don't have a paid staff, it enables us to give the Dharma freely. Yeah. Which is very nice. And the way the Buddha did it. And it's true. We get asked to do jobs that we've never done before. Yeah. And you're on that team and they're all out there doing whatever. You better get out there and you have no idea what to do. Yeah, but people will teach you and you'll learn. Yeah. And so we develop new skills. And it's true, when we work together, we often have a very good time. There's a lot of laughter. Yeah, especially when we make a mistake and the whole thing falls apart.
I think it's easy to underestimate the value of practice structure also. That, we have the commitment to be in the meditation hall at a certain time. We go to the meals at a certain time. We do our prayers at a certain time. All of that is really strongly structured. And we have seen this in a few incidents this year, like when we all had COVID. After we were separated for so very long, we started to get a little loose until we began to bring back the structure. Now that the masks are starting to come off, the few of us that are still walking, keep the schedule going.
Yeah.
And we saw it again recently when we were doing the big search. Got a little loose with that. But once we were able to say, no, we need to keep our schedule no matter what, it held the community together really well.
Yeah. And keeping that schedule is really important because we all came here to learn and practice the Dharma. So the morning and evening sessions must get done. Yeah. Yeah. For our own practice and for the group cohesion.
The structure of the Vinaya, too, has a lot to do with how community can get along. In Taiwan, they have all these different monasteries, and yet there's a structure that's bigger than one monastery, and people can go from one monastery to another, and there's a lot of similarities and stuff, and I think a lot of that has to do with just what the Buddha set up, and we're just newly establishing this in the West. It's very different, but I mean, we could have. I was in a community, a lay community, not involved with religion, that had some shared values, but they weren't the shared values that are key to keeping a community together. They weren't shared values of working on oneself, consideration for others, on the things the Buddha taught,
Yeah.
One of the beautiful byproducts of a committed community is that when you stay in a community over time and you see how people change, that really gives you a sense of wanting to give people space to grow, especially when people first come to the community and, you might see something that you find irritating, but that person's really going to change and begin to grow, and you start seeing that growth, and it's exciting to watch. It's like being a parent, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very rewarding when you really see people who used to have a big problem with something work with their minds, and now that isn't a problem for them.
Can you give advice when there are several bhikshunis who are from different traditions, such as, or not traditions, from the Kagyu tradition or from the Shakya tradition or Gerlok here? We are not saying we are Gerlok Abbey or the Abbey is not a Gerlok Abbey or something like that, but there's sometimes this problem. It seems to be that they have different prayers, therefore they can't come together. And here everybody does the same, has a teacher who's teaching, everybody attends, but then maybe kagyunan to say, no, I don't want to go to this teacher because it's not my lineage. So how would you deal with that?
I think that when you were talking about the Chinese monastics, having things in common, one thing is they all do the same prayers with the same melodies, whatever monastery you go to, whatever temple you go to. And that's a big binding factor, I think. Yeah. And there are differences in their robes between different groups, but we don't notice them because we're not from that tradition. If you were, you would notice them. Oh, they're following this teacher, they're following that teacher. Okay. Regarding your question, people from different traditions coming together, I think the thing is to ask, why are they coming together? Yeah. Do you want to form a community of different people from different traditions, which is a very noble thing. I tried that at one point. Yeah. But if people said, yeah, we want to do things, it doesn't matter, we're from different traditions, then they're going to work on, they're going to learn each other's prayers. Yeah. And they're going to learn how to do the different things from the other traditions. Because you can't just go and say, well, we have people from all the different traditions here, and everybody's following what my teacher says and my tradition says. That's not going to work. Yeah. So people are going to have to learn and accommodate. Yeah. It might be good to check with Tusam Ling, because that's what they're doing. And I know they have different prayer sessions and things where they bring some of that together. I've explained the Pratimoksha Sutra. We now dedicate all the merit of studying the Pratimoksha Sutra so that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood.